Just sent the link to chat. What does he say? I didn't get the link. Oh, let me see. Did I not? Oops. No, I don't think I put it in the email. That would do it. Okay. Okay, so I just sent it to him again. But for the first time, I have to admit. Let's see, so is it what, 3 o'clock in the morning there for you, Arun?
Yeah, it's 3 a.m.
You're a night person, right?
Yeah, kind of. It's
yeah.
It's not a constant. It keeps changing. I don't have a specific bedtime and stuff like that, so it varies.
It varies with what's going on in your life. Yeah. Makes sense. Sure. I'm very much a morning person, a day person. I just go by the daylight. I'd have trouble staying awake all night. Hey, Chet.
Hello, how you doing?
Good, and yourself?
I'm pretty good.
Sorry about the email. I inadvertently left off the link. So
I was like, where is that? I was looking for it.
Yeah, must be Friday. So I think Vijay is going to join us, but in the meantime, we have Arun on the line. Arun is one of the folks that I mentioned to you in India, who's joined the team recently, in the last few weeks, I think, 3 or 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Arun?
Arun, yep.
Arun,
Arun Kumar.
Is he there?
Yeah, Arun, can you hear us? Sometimes he has trouble with the connection there. Let's see.
Well.
Oh, it looks like he's trying to connect again, so he probably had to drop and then come back.
Okay.
It's 2 Aruns.
Right.
That's 1 too many. Hi, Arun. Are you back? Let's see if Vijay is joining us. Good. So, Chet, you can't make it today. Hi, Vijay.
Okay.
And so we'll just be us.
All right.
We will proceed, I guess. Arun, can you hear us at this point?
Hello, Vijaya.
Hello. Check.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for asking.
Oh, Arun's going to try to connect it again, probably. So, are you guys getting feedback? I'm getting a little bit. But it's not too bad. So why don't we just go through the agenda as we usually do? This may be a fairly short meeting because, to be honest, I don't have a lot to demo today, Chet, for a number of reasons. One is that we were working on things that are kind of underneath the hood, not really visible stuff. The other is that we've had vacation and other kind of interruptions. I was on vacation for part of the last 2 weeks. Vijay, I think you were gone for the entire 2 weeks, right? With your daughter's dance event, getting preparation for that. Yep. So anyway, we slowed down a little bit, and I think people are more back in the saddle, as I said to Arun. Hopefully he gets that metaphor. So let's just go through where we're at anyway. I will show you something, but it has to do with more with something we're working on now as opposed to delivered code. So I will show you a little bit of software. We always try to do that. So can you see my screen okay?
Yes, I can.
All right, great. So what we did during this last sprint, I work on a number of things. The main things are listed here. One is on the agency person homepage. If you remember, we have a bunch of tables where we show information, like your job seekers in your job developer role, your job seekers in your case manager role. We also show job seekers who don't have a job developer, in case an agency person wants to click on one of them and assign that person themselves. And we also have a table that shows job seekers who don't have a case manager, again for the same reason. All of those, the first three tables I mentioned were all paginating cleanly, nice and smoothly without forcing a whole page refresh. The fourth one is now paginating cleanly, but I just completed that. So when you click on to go from page 1, 2, and 3, and the little links at the bottom, you don't go to the top of the page anymore and have to scroll down again, which is very laborious. So there's that. We also implemented the ability to track status change history. We have status change going on for a job application and a job. A job, as you know, can go from active when it's born. It can go to filled or revoked, pulled back. And a job application begins life as active status, and it can go to accepted or not accepted. These statuses can change in the future and grow, but right now that's what we have. So right now we've implemented the ability to track when status change occurs, from what state to another, one status to another. And we'll start showing that stuff in displays when we show more information on an application and a job, what status they're in, when the status change occurred, how long they've been active, for instance, that kind of thing. And we've done more work on the cruncher, the back end. We've implemented a back end call. That means, you know, our front end that you see, we call that at the front end. The back end is the cruncher, so they talk to each other through HTTP. And we've implemented two calls which allows the front end to talk to the back end. One to send it a resume ID and get back jobs that match the resume. And the other is to send it a job ID and get back resumes that match that job. So those are in place now. We've actually implemented the use of those on the front end. We're still struggling to get the cruncher matching to work. It's not because it's unknown territory. It's more that Hugh is the only person who's on that. He's got the appropriate skills, and he's very time constrained lately, both between a job, and he's also moving from one home to another. So that's one of the reasons why he can't join us here. So moving on to things we also worked on during the sprint, but we didn't deliver any production code. One is, as I mentioned, we're working on the back end, the cruncher, a categorization algorithm, which is what we call a Bayesian model, which will allow us to better categorize a particular job and categorize it as what type of job it is, and categorize a resume as to what category of job it might fit. So there's some analytical stuff we're working on in the back end to do that, albeit slow, as I mentioned, but we are making progress. Another thing we're working on is handling task completion. I think this sprung from a conversation we had probably a number of weeks ago, where you said, well, gee, if I click on a task and I assign it to somebody or I mark it as complete, then it goes away and I don't have any visibility to it. That's a good point. So we've rethought through how we're going to deal with tasks being completed and visibility to tasks. So I'm actually going to show you something that we're working on that kind of brings that to the foreground. But for instance, for an agency administrator, we think the agency admin should be able to see all unassigned agency tasks. In other words, agency tasks that need to be assigned to somebody, either him or herself or somebody else to do something. We also need that person, agency admin, needs to see their assigned agency tasks. In other words, tasks assigned to anybody in the agency, a job developer or himself, him or herself. The third thing is, and some of these are the same for everybody. My open tasks, everybody in the agency needs to see any tasks that they have been assigned that are not yet complete. And also the fourth is, anybody in the agency who's completed tasks should be able to see those completed tasks. So those last two are not unique to just the agency administrator.
Okay.
So let me give you a little bit of idea visually what that might look like. So here I am logged in as John Smith, the agency administrator. So when I go to my home page, we've mocked up a view of what these things might look like. And we've got actual working code. It's still a mock-up, it's not production code, for the first three tabs shown here. So all unassigned agency tasks are shown here, and of course they're paginated, so you can go back and forth. Your open tasks assigned to John Smith, all agency open tasks, all tasks assigned to anybody in the agency. And the last one is not mocked up in terms of data. This is just a placeholder. So all agency tasks that have been closed, including John Smith's and anybody else's. So there you can see I don't have anything. So we go back to unassigned agency tasks. So I'm the administrator, and I say, oh yeah, so we've got this new job seeker who's joined, is registered. Automatically we have two tasks created for the agency administrator. One is the job seeker has no assigned case manager, and the job seeker has no assigned job developer. So what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to assign this task to one of the case managers in the agency to actually make themselves the case manager for this particular user, this particular new job seeker. So I'm going to click on that. A little box pops up, and it lists all the agency administrators. No, I'm sorry. It lists all the people in the agency who have the case manager role. Chet and Kevin. I'm going to go ahead and assign this to Kevin. So, oops. Okay. I'm going to have to bear with me here. I'm switching back and forth from environments here, and that results in mismatches between the data that I'm showing and the data in the current database that's being pointed to. So let me try that again. So this job seeker, Frank Williams, he's the case manager. I'm going to assign that particular task to one of the case managers. I'm going to pick Kevin. I'm going to click Assign, and that task has been assigned.
Okay.
So that's great. So here's Henry McCoy, and Henry doesn't have a job developer or a case manager, so I'm going to assign this task where Henry needs a job developer to one of the job developers in the agency. And in this case, we have Chet, who's a job developer. He has two roles. And the other one is Jane Doe. She's one of the job developers. So I'll assign that task to her. And then lastly, I have three tasks here: review company registration. The only people who can review company registration and deny or accept are agency administrators. They obviously have to talk to you and determine whether you accept it or not. So I'm going to assign one of these to an agency administrator in the system. Now, in this case, we only have one agency administrator. We can have multiple, but it's myself, John Smith. So I'm the only guy who shows up in this list to choose from. If we had two agency admins, they'd both show up here. So I'm going to go ahead and assign that task to myself. So let me click off these notifications. So when I go look at my open task or your open task, I see review company registration assigned to John Smith, and it is waiting for me to click start working, that I'm starting to work on that. So that's great. So I see all of my open tasks assigned to me that are not yet closed. When I click on all agency open tasks, I see everybody's open tasks in the agency, including my own. So this is the one, review company registration, and then I've got these other two tasks that I've assigned to Kevin and Jane, respectively. So I can keep track. Are they moving forward? Have they done anything with them yet? Where are we with that? And then finally, if I had implemented some code here, you would see closed agency tasks. So you can keep track of the history of every task that was performed in the agency. And in particular, you can see your own closed tasks. The agency admin will see everybody's closed tasks. A normal agency person will just see tasks that they've closed, that they've completed. So I just wanted to show you that because we're going with this kind of tab metaphor, which is, I think, cleaner than having table after table on the screen. So I did say I wanted to show you some software. We need to do that every client meeting, and so that's what I did. I just showed you
That
what
looks
was,
good.
yeah. Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, other things we worked on were, we talked about the current time zone that a user might be. We want to show them timestamps. They may look at a resume, when a resume was uploaded, for instance. We want to show that time that the resume was uploaded in the user's time zone, not Eastern Standard Time. So we're still working on that. This is a feature we're also working on, which is a job developer can submit a job application to a job on behalf of one of their job seekers. So a job seeker can apply directly to a job. Also, a job developer can submit an application on behalf of a job seeker. So that's still underway. And we're refactoring, which means we're re-architecting a little bit of our code for job seekers, changing some of the APIs, the way some of the code is called, to clean it up a little bit. We tend to do that. We go back and we call it refactoring. It's basically redesigning and, you know, adjusting the implementation of code sometimes to clean it up and make it faster and make it more usable. So that's pretty much it, Chet, in terms of what we've been working on and completed.
Okay.
So with that, I'm going to go ahead and switch gears here. And let me just check. It looks like Arun's not with us right now. Okay, good. I was hoping to get a chance to introduce you to Arun and to Vijaya for that matter, since this time zone usually is not amenable for those folks to join us.
Okay.
But anyway, so we've worked up this description of high-level considerations for privacy requirements for job seekers. I don't know if you had a chance to read this yet, Chet?
No, I haven't had a chance yet.
Okay, okay. So basically, because we've got job seekers and we have information that might be considered private unless they say that people can see it, like their email, their phone, where they currently work, that kind of thing. So we thought we would think through some high-level requirements on what kind of privacy restrictions or privacy controls we could give the job seeker. And the way this works out right now is there's basically 3 high-level areas that we want to discuss. Only 2 of which really will affect release 1. The third one we're not planning to put into what we call the MVP or release 1, but while we're at it, we thought we would talk about that too. So the first one is this. You know, I mentioned the fact that we built a feature, or building a feature where a job developer can submit a job application on behalf of a job seeker. So the idea is this: do we need to allow a job seeker to say, yes, my job developer can do that for me, or no, the job developer cannot do that for me, I'm not comfortable with that? Or do we just leave it open where a job developer can submit the application on behalf of the seeker, and the seeker can't say yes or no that is possible?
It's possible, or when they first come to the agency to sign up to use the PETS system,
Yeah.
maybe something like, hey, you know, you give permission to the job developers to submit, you know, your resume on your behalf if they find a good fit for you. So they can either do that in the beginning or they can do it case by case. So maybe in the beginning, because if they do a case by case, the possibility maybe, you know, time consuming. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, case by case, you mean like job application by job application?
Right.
I think that'd be kind of messy.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea that we had is, there's 2 ideas. One is, I think you started to articulate it, they could basically have to read terms and conditions page when they
Correct.
register, and that would say you give us the right to submit an application on your behalf.
Right.
As you know, most people don't read that stuff. There is that, and also if they decide later that they don't want that, there's no control available to them to turn that off. So the other way we could do this is that, you know, a job developer has a profile where they maintain their information like email, phone, etc. We could also put a checkbox in there that says, allow my job developer to submit job applications on my behalf, yes or no.
Okay.
And we could have a little pop-up window that explains to them why that might be useful for them. And that if they do turn that off, then their job developers maybe somewhat restricted in how they can work on behalf of the job seeker. So, and then the third way, of course, is we just ignore it. We just say, well, the job developer has to use discretion. They'll obviously always call the job seeker and say, hey, is it okay if I submit this application on behalf of you? But we know that won't happen because people are human, right?
Right.
So, I mean, if it were me, I'm thinking that my recommendation would be to think about adding a control to the job seeker profile page that says, yes, you can submit applications on my behalf, or no, you can't. Not until I, select yes.
I mean, that sounds good. You know, I agree with that.
Okay. Okay. That gives them a little sense of control and, right. Okay. I mean, the key thing about that is also the job seeker might be currently employed, and they want to be very careful about who they send their resume to,
Sure.
so as to not alert their current employer that they're looking for another job, as an example.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so we'll go with that. We'll give the job seeker control over that, the little toggle switch in their profile. Okay, the second one is, as you know, at some point, an employer will be able to say, for this job, for one of my jobs here, tell me what resumes match that job. So, at this point, we would talk to the back end and say, hey, for this job ID, give me a list of resumes that are matching to some degree. So that would essentially represent, for each returned value, a job seeker. And so what we want to know is, for the particular job seeker included in the list of matched resumes or matched records, can the employer go ahead and view the job seeker's resume? And can the employer contact the job seeker directly?
Yeah.
So in this case, a job seeker, a typical job site, you go to and you upload your resume, and then you can say, well, gee, I want to use that uploaded resume to apply to this particular job. It's my choice to send my resume to that employer. Here, it's not the job seeker's choice. If the employer can actually view the job seeker's resume, regardless of whether the job seeker says yes or no, the job seeker loses that privacy restriction or that privacy control. So also, if the employer can contact the job seeker directly, then we're going to have to give visibility to the job seeker's phone or email or something, so that they can do that.
I want to say like this. Sometimes, as a job seeker, we all look for jobs before. Sometimes we don't know what we really want. And sometimes an employer, you might get one of the best employers you ever worked for, find you.
Yep.
And it's like, I'm not really trying to be too private. So I think it's kind of best to be a little open, because if they can find you and say, hey, we're interested in you, this is what we're about, I think it's a little bit better like that. If you be too private, sometimes you miss out on opportunity, unless you say that you want them to be able to contact the job developer directly instead of the job seeker. Unless you're thinking about something like that. What do you think?
Yeah. So that's that note here that we have, where we actually do want, regardless of what the job seeker control is over visibility of the resume and their contact info, we will always allow a job developer to contact, or excuse me, we'll always allow an employer to contact the job developer and say basically, hey, I saw this job seeker record here. I don't know who it is. I can't see the resume, or I can. I don't know. But anyway, I saw this person who seems to be a good match for my job. Can you, basically contact the job seeker on my behalf? So that I think we'll always have.
Yeah, I mean, that right there, and if in the way how the employer will find them, or the job developer will know, maybe it'll show a preview of their resume or their skills, or first name or last name, but not their contact information. And then that way they know who to contact. within their records as far as the clients. So, you know,
Okay. Okay.
you want to preview, you know.
It'd be hard to show a preview because we wouldn't know when we break apart the resume. You know, the top of the resume, obviously, there's all this name and phone number and all that stuff.
Okay.
So it'd be tough. What we
Unless,
can, sorry?
I mean, you can go ahead. I would say unless you show their name and some of their skills, or I don't know. What do you think?
Well, um, I know in certain job sites you can say, I want my resume to be visible to employers who search the database, or I don't want my resume to be visible to employers who search the database. However, to start out with, what we could do is just leave it open, which is, and we'd have terms and conditions page, as we mentioned before, when you register.
Okay.
And basically, if you upload your resume, you need to be aware that employers can then search the database and see your resume.
Okay.
And then we could add controls later if we want to allow the job seeker to say, my resume is searchable by employers, or it's not searchable. It's viewable by employers, or it's not viewable. Maybe for release 1, we can go ahead with it open, and and maybe restrict that later if need be.
Okay. That makes sense.
Okay.
Definitely do that with the personal.
All right. And that means that because we're making the job seeker visible, they can see the resume, then the employer would be able to see phone number, email, etc. So we're going to have to show that on the results, the match results page.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to show, we're going to have to click there to see the resume. We're going to have to show the job seeker's phone number and email so that the employer can take action directly. Okay. Now, when that happens, we're going to lose visibility, Chet, because if they click on an email link, they're going to just open an email in their mail system, and send an email to the job seeker saying, "Hey, I saw your resume. I'd like to talk to you." The job developer may not be aware that that's going on. So,
Well, okay, well, that's what we don't want to happen. So maybe you should just they contact the job developer directly, because we want to be able to track them and what's going on.
I see. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see. In this case, then, where I think we're ended up, Chet, based on what you just said, is the employer cannot view the job seeker's resume. They can see that there's a 5-star match or whatever
Yes.
on this particular job seeker, but the resume would give away all the contact information directly. But there will be a link there or a button that says "Contact Job Developer," and then they'll click on that, and then they will be in contact with the job developer. Job developer will see that this employer is interested in this job seeker, and then the job developer will take action and be part of the conversation.
Right.
Yeah, and then at some point, the job developer hands off the employer to the job seeker, and vice versa. They're talking directly. He may lose track of that conversation, but so what? At that point, he's got the two parties together, and hopefully, they'll connect up. Okay. All right, so the employer cannot view the job seeker's resume, and the employer cannot contact the job seeker directly. They'll have to click on a button that says, "Hey, let this job developer know that I'm interested in this job seeker." Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So good. That helps clarify things. I'm glad we talked that through, because I thought we'd end up in a different spot, but based upon what you said, it makes sense. And yeah, that's good. The third item is basically the same thing over again, Chet. It's just here, the second item was matching a job to resumes in the back end.
Okay.
We'll also at some point implement the ability to search for an employer to search in our database directly, which is a front-end database. We'll have a job seeker's skills, their location, the city, the job category that they are looking for. So we're not there yet. We don't have that search built yet on the front end, but when we do, we'll have the exact same questions. And I think based upon what you said, we'll have the exact same answers. We'll have to treat it the same way.
Yep.
Yep. Because otherwise it would contradict what we decided for item 2. Okay, perfect. Great. All right. Is anything else on privacy of a job seeker that we should be aware of? Chet, these are the key things that occur to us, but...
Well, I have to review it a little bit more, but I don't think, not at the moment, but I'll look into it a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what will happen is, as we start expanding our implementation of the stuff, we may run into questions at a detail level below this, or maybe a fourth category we haven't thought of yet. So we'll keep coming back if that happens as well. But this, I think, is good high-level direction, and we can take action based upon what you told us here. Perfect. Okay, great. All right, Chet, so we're at that point in the program where we ask you if you have any questions for us at this point.
No, I don't have any questions right now.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, just to wrap up then, in terms of what we're going to be working on, what we're focusing on for the next 2 weeks, one is we're continuing the management of jobs. And I mentioned we're working on that feature where a job developer can submit the application on behalf of a job seeker. We're also implementing a feature, working on a feature where a company person can go in and look at a job application and click on not accepted. I think the button says reject or something, but really it's not accepted. And part of that, as you pointed out to us before, is we're asking the user to enter a reason for not accepting the application. So that's underway as well. So I don't know if you remember, we talked about that a couple meetings ago, and you asked for that. You can't just say I reject the application. You got to tell us a little as to why you rejected.
Right. Right.
Yep. So that's part of that story. Task management. I showed you what we're doing. Provide visibility to tasks, open, closed, not assigned. We just did this one. So we just talked about privacy controls. Now that we've got direction, we can create stories to actually build that stuff, or at least the initial part of that we need. We're continuing to work on the job matching stuff, talking to the back-end cruncher, and that's job matching resumes and resume matching jobs. This is a little bit of under-the-hood stuff, but just so you're aware, we have functionality and access to objects, if you will, in the system that is quite open for developers. We don't like to be restricted in what we can do based upon how we're logged in. But since we're approaching release 1, we have to start now implementing authorization controls. So based upon who you are logged in as, you can do certain things and you can't do certain things. And the obvious one is if I'm logged in as an agency administrator, then, for instance, I can go to stuff under here and do stuff. You know, if I'm not logged in as an agency administrator, I can't see those things and I can't type in the URL directly to go there. So we'll be protecting certain aspects of the system based upon authorization for various user roles. That's essentially what we're doing there. Yeah. And lastly, we're thinking we're going to be reviewing the minimal viable product or release 1 list this meeting, but we decided that we had enough for this meeting. Also, Hugh couldn't make it, and I think it's important for him to be at that discussion. So I think what we're trying to do now is prep for that review of the release 1 items at our next client meeting 2 weeks from now. So we'll be working on that too. Hopefully we're ready at that time, unless something else pops up. But we're getting there. And that's it. So I guess the next thing is our next meeting time, which is September 9th at 5:30 p.m. Is that still good for you, Chet?
Oh yeah, that's fine. That's a good time.
Okay, good. Action items from the meeting. I'm going to write up our discussion of the privacy material, and so just so we record that, and we'll get working on that as well. So we stop presenting. So that's pretty much it at this point, Chet. We've made good progress. Like I said, we've slowed down a little bit with summer and everything else, but the team, both U.S. based as well as Asia based, is working away, producing good stuff. So
Great
I
stuff.
feel, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We got to get it in your hands as soon as possible, though, because I guarantee we got a lot of stuff wrong, and we're not going to know until you start using it. So we're kind of overdue on that, but we've had a small team. It's a little bit bigger now, so we're making more progress, which is great.
Okay.
So that's our goal, to get this in front of you so you can start playing with it and tell us what else to do with it and what to fix and all that.
Okay.
All right, so I guess with that, I will say stay cool if you can in these hot days, and we'll, we will connect up with you 2 weeks from now then.
All right. I appreciate
Okay.
you guys. JF, Patrick, y'all have a good one. Y'all stay cool too.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Chad. Take care
All right.
now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.